Known for his straight-edge lifestyle and iconoclastic personality, Phil Brooks took a long but steady road to stardom as wrestler CM Punk, rising from the ranks of TNA and Ring of Honor before being signed by the WWE. Although he faced a questionable future in the land of giants, he won over fans, holding the WWE Championship for an impressive 434 days, the 6th longest reign in WWE history. Over time, Punk struggled with politics, questionable booking, and pressure to work, despite being injured. In late January 2014, Punk walked out on the WWE, beginning a very personal war between himself and the promotion. The story of CM Punk would become an example of the WWE's willingness to disregard its fans and employees, both out of spite and arrogance in booking. Join us as Behind the Titantron examines CM Punk vs the WWE. Success can seem to come so easy for those watching from the outside. CM Punk appeared at 2006's WrestleMania 22 as one of John Cena's Tommy gun wearing gangsters, and 2 years later he was holding the World Heavyweight Championship after cashing in the Money in the Bank ladder match he'd won at WrestleMania 24. However, his journey to the top began nearly a decade before. A hard-travelled road beset with challenges from someone who fancied himself as a true individual. Phil Brooks was born on the 26th of October 1978 to a family of 4 siblings. Turned off by his father's alcoholism, Brooks swore off alcohol, and when he read about the straight-edge lifestyle, it fascinated him. Like many young people, he sought out his identity. In high school, he wore a blue mohawk and 6-inch spikes, a sign of his future willingness to express himself as he saw fit. In a 2009 interview, Punk recalled his life's ambition. "I never wanted to be an astronaut. I can't remember ever wanting to be a fireman." Punk's goal was to be a wrestler, and he pursued his goal with determination and passion. He began wrestling in Lunatic Wrestling Federation, and it would be there he adopted the name CM. As for his seemingly ever-elusive meaning of the initial CM, he explained in a 2006 interview. "Originally it stood for Chick Magnet. I got put into a tag team with this other dude on a whim because somebody didn't show up to the show. It was only supposed to be a one-shot deal. I wasn't even ready to wrestle yet. I didn't have gear or anything. They just put me in the ring and beat the crap out of me. I had to come back the next month and the next month, and it was something that stuck. I tried to get rid of it, and it wound up getting shortened to the initials. I was always a Punk, but Chick Magnet at least got shortened to CM. I tell people it stands for C. Montgomery Burns, as in Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. I tell people they are initials for my real name, Chuck Mosley, which is not true at all. I'll say it stands for Crooked Moonsault, Charles Manson, Cookie Monster is another good one." While fans may never know the true meaning of what CM stands for, we do know this about Punk's wrestling career. He trained at Steel Domain Wrestling School, learning under Ace Steel, Danny Dominion, and Kevin Quinn. He also trained with Dave Taylor and Fit Finlay. Later, Punk shared his knowledge, training aspiring wrestlers in Ring of Honor. Punk established himself on the indie circuit in Independent Wrestling Association Mid-South. There he feuded with Colt Cabana and Chris Hero, building a reputation as a rising star on the independent circuit. Punk has credited one of his matches with Chris Hero in IWA Mid-South as one of his best matches ever. In 2002, however, Punk suffered a serious injury in the ring. In a 2008 interview, Punk stated, "My skull was fractured in 2002. I was giving a guy a neck breaker and his head landed on top of mine when we hit the mat. The doctor told me not to exercise for a year. I was in the ring 2 months later. Like a complete idiot. I had horrible side effects for 18 months. Bad vertigo, loss of balance, spinal fluid leaking from my ear." Punk's 2002 injury is important because it shows his willingness to disregard a doctor's recommendation. Given Punk's 2014 claim he was asked to wrestle hurt, this is something to consider when assessing Punk's claim of mistreatment by the WWE. At the start of 2002, the WWF seemed the only game in town besides the independent wrestling scene. With WCW and ECW dead and would-be replacements such as World Wrestling All-Stars and Excitement Wrestling Federation dying, wrestlers found themselves having to conform to the WWF style and look, or try their hand at the various independents dotting the landscape. However, the birth of Ring of Honor in February 2002 changed that, giving wrestlers a place to showcase their skills against some of the best in the indie scene. In June 2002, NWA Total Nonstop Action debuted, providing work for more talent. Punk would find work in both promotions. His work against Colt Cabana saw him invited to Ring of Honor, and Punk worked his way to the top, earning national recognition from Ring of Honor's vocal fans. Punk also found work in TNA, but left the promotion, focusing on Ring of Honor. His work in Ring of Honor featured many highlights, including his feud with ECW original Raven and his team with Colt Cabana as the Second City Saints. However, Punk's run in Ring of Honor is arguably best known for his terrific trilogy against Ring of Honor World Champion Samoa Joe. While Punk did not defeat Joe for the Ring of Honor World title, he eventually won it, defeating Austin Aries. Punk's work then caught the attention of the WWE, and in 2005 he signed with the company, finishing up some dates in Ring of Honor before reporting to the WWE's Ohio Valley Wrestling developmental territory. While Punk was signed to the WWE, there was no guarantee of success. Although the company was no longer exclusively the land of giants, wrestlers with Punk's height and build still had to fight hard to establish a foothold in the company. The WWE was well known for its backstage politics, and Punk reportedly faced an uphill battle from the start. According to former WWE writer Court Bauer, Shawn Michaels and Triple H buried Punk during his tryout match. One time, Triple H along with HBK buried CM Punk. I think it was his 2005 tryout, Bauer said. Maybe he didn't know the name and wasn't familiar with who it was, but they buried him. They annihilated his look and his work. And I'm like, you just sunk the guy in front of the chairman. Michaels denies the incident ever happened, claiming, I had someone tell me, Triple H, he buried CM Punk. One, I never even met the guy. Supposedly he worked for us. Dave Lagana will tell you, as Punk will, that I was one of his biggest fans. The reason WWE didn't like him is because he had a bad attitude. I've never seen anybody's tryouts. They usually have them at the beginning of Raw. However, former head writer Alex Greenfield refutes Michaels' claim, stating it was Shawn, Triple H, and Arn Anderson. They just fucked Punk up. I don't know if they knew who CM Punk was, because I certainly didn't. They cut his work apart. They really buried the guy. If Michaels and or Helmsley tried to bury Punk from his tryout, it could explain the difficulties Punk faced later on in his WWE career when he was over with the fans, yet poorly booked for a supposed main event star. Was the initial difficulty an isolated incident, or a sign of things to come? Regardless of Punk's start, he excelled in Ohio Valley Wrestling, winning the territory's television, tag team, and heavyweight championship. Less than a year after his OVW debut, Punk was called up to the WWE's ECW roster, eventually winning the ECW championship. Punk's hard work paid off, and he was drafted to Raw in June 2008, winning the World Heavyweight Championship the next week. Looking at Punk's time in the WWE from his debut in Ohio Valley to his call up to the main roster, it's difficult to think of a superstar who achieved so much in so little time. It's arguable Punk could do no wrong, winning title after title and equally prestigious honors such as the Money in the Bank ladder match contract and the WWE's Triple Crown, beating Kevin Nash's previous record for doing so in the shortest time. Punk's assimilation of mat wrestling, martial arts, and aerial attacks made for exciting matches, and fans were captivated by his mystique. Punk also proved he was no one-hit wonder, winning the Money in the Bank ladder match a second time, and turning heel and demonstrating a talent for playing a heel equally as well as a face. By June 2011, Punk had led the heel faction the Straight Edge Society and New Nexus, feuding with some of the WWE's top babyfaces, including Rey Mysterio and John Cena. Now Punk was ready to feud with the WWE itself. On the 27th of June 2011, Punk cut a blistering promo on the WWE, targeting people he called ass kissers like John Cena, Hulk Hogan, and Dwayne Johnson. Punk, who was scheduled for a WWE Championship match with John Cena, threatened to win the belt and take it to another promotion such as New Japan Pro Wrestling or Ring of Honor. Eventually, Punk's microphone was cut off, leading to fans wondering what was going on. His verbal onslaught became known as his pipe bomb promo, a promo so compelling that fans questioned whether it was a shoot. He addressed a number of issues that could be perceived as sore spots, such as his remarks about John Cena, his disdain for fans who supposedly supported him but who were more interested with profiting from him, and Vince McMahon's lack of true success because he surrounded himself with douchebags like John Laurinaitis. With Punk's WWE contract scheduled to expire on the 17th of July 2011, the WWE made the most of the situation, announcing on WWE.com that Punk had been suspended. The storyline continued with WWE Champion John Cena asking Punk to be reinstated and defending the WWE Championship against Punk at Money in the Bank. Punk won the belt and, as promised, left the company to pursue greener pastures. Behind the scenes, the scenario was an elaborate work, but one Punk helped to set up as all too real. The fans wondered, would Punk ever return? The angle was simple, but surprisingly shocking. The idea of kayfabe seemed a distant memory in 2011, that is until Punk's pipe bomb promo. Fans could not determine whether it was a shoot or a work. He seemed to be shooting from the hip, and the WWE cut his microphone off while he was still talking. How much of this was real? How much of this was a work? What if it was for real? For the first time in years, many fans had no idea what to expect. When John Cena teased the WWE Championship might show up in TNA, fans wondered if the WWE would finally do an interpromotional angle. The beauty of the angle was it seemed so real, but it was all a work. While CM Punk addressed complaints about the WWE such as Cena, Hogan and The Rock being McMahon favourites, the WWE underachieving thanks to Vince McMahon surrounding himself with kiss asses like John Laurinaitis, and fans dreading the thought of Triple H running the WWE, the promo was a complete work. Given Punk's status as an iconoclast, it's difficult to think of anyone who could have made the promo more believable. That and Punk's upcoming departure made things seem all too real. What became known as the Summer of Punk was a great time to be a WWE fan. The WWE did a fantastic job of keeping fans guessing. They upped the ante by having a tournament to crown a new WWE champion, with Rey Mysterio winning the belt. Next came an angle where Punk showed up at the San Diego Comic-Con mocking Triple H. The WWE doubled down on the angle, having Punk interrupt John Cena after Cena defeated Rey Mysterio for the WWE Championship. Triple H then scheduled a match at SummerSlam to crown an undisputed WWE champion. Punk defeated Cena at SummerSlam, but his reign was short-lived as Alberto Del Rio cashed in his Money in the Bank contract, defeating Punk with an assist from Kevin Nash. He would regain the belt at 2011's Survivor Series, going on to hold it for 434 days until dropping it to The Rock at 2013's Royal Rumble. Despite this loss, Punk's career still seemed as big as ever. At WrestleMania 29, Punk would challenge The Undertaker, setting out to snap the dead man's undefeated streak at the Showcase of Immortals. While Punk came up short, he remained a top star. With a seemingly huge and consistent push, what would compel Punk to leave the WWE just a year later? Who was at fault? And why did Punk's walkout become a personal matter rather than a business one? Join us next time as Behind the Titantron examines part 2 of CM Punk vs the WWE.